Welcome to Teis Talks, where we discuss all things faith and family. Our guests today, they were tired of the woke agenda, the spreading of lies about the founding of our country, the removal of our religious liberties, and the propaganda that our education system has produced throughout the last few decades. Their love for God, their country, and the pursuit of truth have driven them to build a business to help educate our country in the lost history of America. John and Faith Gelsthorpe, the founders of Lost History Tours, are here with us today. Welcome to the podcast.
It is really great to have you with us. We're thrilled that you are doing this. You've been working on this ministry, or I would think of it as a ministry, but a business, for the last 2 to 3 years, and it's really great to see it come to fruition.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having us today. And it has. It's been a long journey to get to this point. As we're getting ready to, get this going and get it kicked off. But we're very excited about what Lost History Tours is all about. And so Faith and I have been, in this together for 2.5 years, just working this project. And we're at a very exciting time as we're...
He says we're both working on this. This is what he does on the nights and weekends. I was the brain behind it.
It's true. As usual, she is the brain behind most of the good in our family. So.
But he was the brawn. He did it. He's making it happen.
Didn't you used to be a happy family before you've just totally immersed yourself into the history of America?
Oh, we are a happy family.
Oh,
Stop teaching false history.
Yes, exactly.
We love each other.
That's revisionist. Yeah.
So, John, tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, you and Faith. Tell us a little bit about it. Let our listeners know who you are.
Great. So I was born in Nebraska and born into a pastor's family. My dad was a pastor there for many years, and we'll kind of come back to a little bit of that later. But our family moved to North Carolina when I was 5, and that basically, kind of growing up there was an exciting experience of growing up in the South. There's a lot of interesting history down there.
You're telling me. I've taken my kids out there. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because out here in Las Vegas, we got the mob museum as our history that we can go see. So that's amazing.
Or the neon sign graveyard.
Yeah,
that's a
the
good one.
the
Las Vegas.
boneyard. Yeah.
Elvis.
Or that I was born here.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's part of the
That's
history of Nevada.
It's one of the best parts of history of Nevada right there. The greatest thing.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. So I graduated with a degree in history from Clearwater Christian College. They've since closed, but it was a great school down there in Clearwater, Florida, and immediately got involved in politics. That eventually led me to a job up in Washington, D.C., and that was really kind of the cool part about, driving to work every day, passing the monuments. And for a little while, it kind of becomes monotonous. But then, there's that day where you're like, man, I get to drive by the Lincoln Memorial, on my way to work every day,
Wow.
and the Washington Monument and Jefferson and all of these different, locations. And, I would play tour guide to family and friends on weekends when they'd come up. And so just being able to be there, being able to learn some of that history. But even, with a history degree, there were a lot of things that, as we've gone on, teaching over the last couple of years, David Barton's series, building on the American heritage and biblical citizenship, there were things that as a history major, I was never even taught.
Wow.
And so, but that was a little bit of, where I came from, and then coming out here to Las Vegas, that was a whole interesting providential move as far as, the Lord leading through that to bring me out here to Las Vegas. Faith and I met at our church, and we're
Best day ever.
for me, absolutely. But we met here. We were married just about a year later.
That was 15 years ago now.
We just celebrated our 15-year anniversary.
15th
I know, it just
anniversary.
passes so quick, right?
Wow.
We're so young.
I know. But
I tell people when John married Faith, I didn't feel like I was losing a daughter. I was gaining a swimming pool.
Yes. He had a swimming pool in his backyard. Still does.
it was
And to our listeners that may have not figured this out yet, Faith is my sister. She
Yes.
was a Teis. She is the second daughter of Dave Teis, my dad. And
So I grew up here.
And
Love
my
it
wife,
here.
Anna.
Oh, yes.
Yes, she is my mother.
So
Great lady.
we do have that connection and bond, but that's not why we're having them on here today.
Yeah. So, but that's what brought me out here to Las Vegas. Like I said, we, met, we got married 15 years later. We've got 4 kids, ages 13, 10, 8, and 4. I'm a program manager for a local government contract here in Las Vegas. I teach a small group Bible study Sunday nights. I'm a deacon at our church, and we just love it here. So.
Yeah, and your passion though
Yeah.
is history,
Yes.
and your passion, your desire. I mean, it's amazing. Faith liked history before she met you, but as she has been with you and she has grown, she has told me so many things. I'll just talk about something, and then she'll be like, "Oh, but do you know what really happened?" And then I get this 30-minute essay.
Sorry.
I
That's,
know, sorry
on
about what really happened 200
you're
years
welcome.
ago.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes,
there you
That's
go.
more like it. You're welcome.
But it's fascinating, and to
Yeah.
know, like, wow, no, what I understood to be true is actually false. And it's because it has become lost
Yeah.
in
Or not the
our
whole
history.
story.
Yes,
Yeah.
not the whole
story. That's it. Yeah.
I don't think that it's just lost.
Mhm.
It's been deliberately buried.
True.
And
Yes.
I love the fact that you are taking the time to dig out that history and show us the truth about what took place. I've loved America all my life. Being in Washington, D.C. would be like a boyhood dream come true, seeing all
Yeah.
those monuments, to walk around and see those. But to know what the reality is, what truly took place, and to see that carved in those monuments,
Yeah.
that's absolutely amazing. And I'm thrilled that you are taking those truths and making them available for the average American. I mean, sometimes people give information, and you're so buried that you can't even realize, you can't admit that you don't know what that person just said. But I love that you're taking history that again has been buried, lost, and making it so easy to understand, and man, it's just so eye-opening.
Yeah.
I appreciate that so much.
Well, and it helps when we have, resources like, wall builders, David Barton, Tim Barton, Rick Green, some of these folks that are doing amazing work. And so basically, we're taking a lot of their resources to, and just making that available through this application.
Okay, tell me, as a consumer,
Yeah.
when I look at Lost, what am I getting? What am I going to do? Why do I want to grab onto Lost?
Okay. So that goes back to a little bit of how the idea got developed. So let me backtrack to that just a little bit. So we were doing a family vacation. We were doing a cross-country trip back in 2022. And, we love this country. We love, exploring, different parts of this beautiful land that we have, and so we're ultimately our end goal was to get to Washington, D.C. We were going to spend some time there. We were spending time with friends and family. But as we're there in D.C., we're walking the monuments, and we started thinking, man, I really wish we had, David Barton here or Rick Green or one of these guys that, just really knows history. Because again, sometimes we've been taught good history, but sometimes we've been taught or led to believe false history, right? Or
yeah.
things that were just they're not the full story.
Yes.
The context has been left out.
Right.
And so as we're Googling some
Fake news.
fake news,
There you go.
That's good.
yeah. We're Googling different stories because, as a parent, you want to make a good experience for your kids. And they're asking these questions about the monuments. And some of it you remember, some of it you don't, right? And so as we're going through, we start seeing all these different things. We're like, wow, I don't think that's right.
Well, and there's even in some of those locations, there's little placards that
yeah.
have QR codes, and you scan your phone and you look up what the QR code says about our founding fathers, and it's just revisionist history. It's
Yeah.
really, like you were saying, Dad, it's intentional.
Yeah.
And it's very disheartening. And it actually, when you visit D.C., you can't help but feel patriotic, and you feel proud to be an American and thankful, and you look at all of that. But when you have the propaganda thrown in your face, it gives you a completely different feeling. When you're there seeing these monuments, it almost makes you feel sick and like, wow, America is bad.
And it makes you question all that, like, should
Everything.
I be thankful I'm an American? I'm
Yes.
sorry I'm an American.
Yes.
It's what they want you to,
That's
the
it.
feelings to have.
And so we thought of this idea. We thought, we're looking for resources there, and there were no resources. We couldn't find a good, solid, source where we could, quickly and easily pull some of this information.
Yeah.
And again, we had gone through the Building on the American Heritage series that Wall Builders and David Barton put together. Probably about a year or so before that, and
We
so
did that in
some of that was
connections class at our
fresh,
church,
and we just
yeah.
thought, wow, I wish they had something, and so as we did more research, we couldn't find anything. We said, well, I think we need to create something.
Well,
Yeah.
the timing of it was neat too, because we were on vacation and we were planning on coming back, and he was going to do a brand new series by David Barton at this time called Biblical Citizenship.
Yeah.
And that one had Kirk Cameron in it. It had a lot of really great keynote speakers in it. And so while we're on vacation, he'll take time here and there to study and prepare for his next connection class series. So he's reading through the book and he's listening to some of the DVDs, and he's saying, wow, could you imagine? Like if we had Rick Green here walking us from each one of these monuments, could you imagine if we had David Barton and Tim Barton and these guys just as we were standing in front, like that would be so fun.
And they do have in-person, right?
Yes.
They've got in-person tours, and those are amazing. But, if you're not able to do that, we weren't able to
If
do
you're
that
not
there.
the Christian
so,
person with the bank account to go do that, then you're not gonna.
Or even
well, it's
a
just the timing.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
the
got to match
time.
up the timing, and
Right.
and so they've got amazing, in-person tours, and that's
Yeah.
awesome. But what we decided was, we need to
Make that available
Make
to
that
the
available.
general public.
Yeah.
for anyone and everyone that is there in DC that
Right.
the schedule doesn't match up or whatever the case.
Right.
And the other part of it is, you can get a tour guide there, but you're taking a chance.
Oh yes.
What worldview is that tour guide coming from?
Absolutely. When I was my husband and I, when I turned 40, Neil took me to Cancun, and we both love history. We love ancient history, and that's what you're going and seeing when you go down in Cancun. We get there, we get this old rickety rental car there in Mexico, and we drove about 4 hours to go see the Mayan temples. And
Boy, for
it
there,
was-
you're hoping a different kind of lost experience that you don't want to get lost
right,
there, right?
Right, yeah. And it was amazing. We get there, and you could do an in-person tour with a bunch of people, and it was like $40 or $50 to do per person to go in and do the tour. And my husband looked online, and he was like, oh, we could find some audio tours that we could do on our phone. So we did that, and it was less expensive. And as we're walking through it, and it was really cool because you're walking, and it tells you where to go, and you stop at the point, and it tells you right here, this is where they would take young virgin girls and they would sacrifice them to their God. And then take a few more steps and go over here. This is where they would play a game every year, and all the winners would be sacrificed to their God. And then come step over here. This is where they would hang the bodies of the people that they would sacrifice to their God. I mean, over and over and over and over again. And I am no exaggeration. Then it took
Just
us
the
to
death culture.
another, then it took us, so satanic, right? Then it took us to a final stop, and it said, it names this man. I don't remember his name, but he said, this man came in from Spain, and he Christianized the culture. And everything went from, oh, this is what happened, here's the history, to doom and gloom.
Oh, how sad.
He
that
Christianized,
changed their culture.
and that's what it was. He changed their culture. He Christianized their culture.
Wow.
We have lost so much history because they burned their books. They burned. There were so many different. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, of course, it's their witchcraft. It's their stuff. These people,
Their
the
books
young
that
girls,
told them to kill the
and
little
moms,
virgin girls.
Exactly. These moms now can be. Of course, they're burning the books. Of course, they're getting rid of. They're purging their culture of all of this
Wow.
satanic garbage. But in the tour, the Christian was the bad guy.
Wow.
And my husband and I both just looked at each other like, this is horrific. and
that's sick.
no one else unless you have a mindset of a godly mindset and that kind of understanding, are you going to accept it as that guy was the good guy?
Yeah.
So this to me is something my husband and I are like, yes, we want to jump on into this. We want to know the truth. We don't want a bent understanding of the truth. We don't want fake news.
Yeah.
We want to know what truly happened. And you don't have to want to the whole time, okay, I'm got to be discerning of what this person's going to tell me. I got to be complete. You're on vacation.
Yeah.
You want to be able to go and be like, oh, this is cool. This is what happened. And be able to trust your teacher and your guide. So this is what I'm so excited about, that you guys are doing that, because of course it is neglectful history that they are teaching people. They're neglecting to tell the truth.
What I love about the sources that we're using, David and Tim Barton, they are so big on, we tell the whole story of history, the good, the bad, the ugly. Because if you take things out and you cherry pick, it gives you a distorted view of history. And we can't learn from our history if we don't know the whole story. So
Yeah.
The question is then, did George Washington cut down a cherry tree?
I
come
don't
take
know.
a tour
You'll-
and find
you'll
out.
have to check out Lost History
Actually,
Tours.
we talk about that in
So
one of the tours.
We do, and
So you
so
were talking about cherry picking. It's just a natural question.
That's funny.
So, kind of coming back to your question, Charity, about what do you get with the app, and so to kind of walk through it, that was kind of how we got there and the genesis of it. But so the app is going to be free, a free download. We'll have that in the Apple and Google Play Store.
And how do they find that? They just look up Lost History Tours in the App Store.
Yep, Lost History
and they can
Tours. Yep,
download it for
that's how you're
free.
gonna find
So
it.
right now, while you're listening to this podcast, grab your phone and look up on the Apple Podcasts Lost or Apple
Apple Store.
The App
Apple Store.
Yeah. Mhm.
Lost History Tours.
Or Google Play if
Yeah,
you have
Google
an
Play if you have
Android.
an Android.
Okay, so look that up right now. Download that to your phone.
Yep,
If
free
you're
download.
like me and you're like, I have 90 million things, go delete Marco Polo. You don't need that. Go delete Instagram. Keep that because you want to share Lost
Yes.
on your
Yes.
Instagram.
Yeah, keep
and you
that
want
one,
to
keep
share
that
it
one.
on Facebook. But all your unnecessary things, delete the extra pictures and all the extra things, and get this app, Lost History Tours.
Yep. So you'll download the app. It's completely free. And then basically what you'll see is your different options for tours. And right now we're just focused in Washington, D.C. We have plans to expand that, but for right now, that's where we're focusing. There's 5 different tours.
And you guys, I've heard what they're focusing on in the future. It's so
Shh, don't get ahead
exciting.
of
Yes,
ourselves.
I can't wait to go to DC and use this app when I'm in DC. So those of you that are planning a trip, make sure you download it, get it now so you know that it's there. And if those of you that live there, go do this and write a review. Make sure you put a review. Please get us a 5-star review on all of them. And don't write a review if you're not a nice person. So only put 5-star reviews. Get on there. Tell us what you like about it. Download it. But and what you loved about the app. So can you tell us what LOST stands for, John?
Yeah. So LOST stands for Liberty Outdoor Self-Guided Tours. That's the LOST, right? So, and again, it starts with Liberty.
Yep, it does. Liberty Baptist Church, Lost
Liberty is our
History
favorite.
Experience, Liberty.
That's where our love grew.
Liberty,
where we
that's
met.
it. There's so many things about Liberty that we absolutely love. And one of those, is obviously all those things, but also religious liberty and the opportunity to have religious liberty. And that goes back to, Faith and I are born of a legacy of both of our parents, of fighting for and defending religious liberty.
Yeah. Well, you went through your family went through a lot fighting for religious liberty.
Yeah. So, and that kind of builds into, the genesis of the name as well. My parents fought the Christian school battle in, Western Nebraska, back in the late 70s, early 80s, and
Now, some of you guys are like, what are you talking about? Christian school battle. Yes, Christian schools were being outlawed wrongly because we had the religious liberty to have them. Tell us a tiny bit about that, please. We'd love to hear this.
We actually at that time they were trying to make churches license their Christian schools, and that was the issue, because there is a separation between the state has no right at all to make any laws that govern our religious freedom. And so preachers started standing up, and Nebraska was a major battleground, and your father, Bob Gelsthorpe, was a major was a target in western Nebraska.
Yeah, tell us
So-
a little bit about what happened with
Yeah.
your family.
Yeah.
How old were you?
Yeah. So, well, I was around 2 when, thankfully the local sheriff actually let him be home on my birthday
Oh my
because he actually served 93 days.
And you were the youngest of 4 kids.
Youngest of 5.
Youngest
Yeah,
of five. So it's a pastor's family, youngest of 5. So
Yeah.
there's a whole. Just
Small
imagine,
church, small Christian school.
imagine these. Maybe you go to a small Christian school, a small Christian church, and you have a young family. Picture this happening to your family. This actually happened to John's.
Yeah.
His father refuses to have his school licensed by the state.
Yeah, and they fought that battle. Christian Law Association, David Gibbs, was a large part of that, and just an amazing person. Defending religious liberty, defending my parents, and so they held him in contempt. He would have to go down to the county jail each day, Monday through Friday, and they basically just wanted to take him out of the mix, so he couldn't lead the congregation. He couldn't lead the folks there and keep the school open, and they just refused to, bow to the pressure. There's a whole lot more, just
they
kind of keep this
froze-
very high level.
No, they
but
froze the bank accounts. They came in and took every piece of furniture out of their home. So they had no money. So imagine being a pastor's wife, and now your husband's in jail, and you've got 5 little kids at home, and they came and confiscated your husband and everything.
Well, and come to find out, after many years talking to, Dr. Gibbs, talking to my mom about this, they threatened to actually take us kids out of the home.
Man.
Because them standing for religious freedom
course.
was a danger to the kids. It's
Right.
like
CPS coming in.
That's
Wow.
insanity, and so having some of that background, and obviously, with Faith's parents, here in Nevada fighting that same battle, though slightly different, but it was all
And they
it was
put
all the
him.
same battle.
How many days did they put him in jail?
Yeah, 93 days.
93 days.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine your pastor's family this happening? And this happened within the last 40 years?
Yeah.
Within the
Yeah.
last 40
About 40 years
years
ago.
of the United States.
Yeah.
We homeschooled our children, and then we were threatened with the fact that they were going to come. If your kids will be truant, and we'll take your children away. And we had to go before county boards and just take a real stand here in Las Vegas, so that people today now have the freedom to homeschool their children in the state of Nevada. But we were in the early battles for that freedom.
Yeah, and with both Faith and I having that as part of our our family history on both
Right.
sides, just amazing defenders of liberty. That was a large reason why we picked that
Yeah, that's
that
neat.
name to start this whole effort, Liberty Outdoor, and of course, so the outdoor piece is, of course, you're outdoor
course.
at the monuments and different things. And then it's a self-guided tour. So that's how the name came about. But
So it's Liberty
Outdoor
Outdoor
self-guided
tours.
tours. That's it. So
wanna
that
make
makes up Lost.
Yes.
Get Lost, Lost History Tours, and that's what what the name's all about. But so when you download the app, you'll have options for different tours, different places. We've got 5 different ones available right now. And that's the Signers Memorial, which is fantastic. A lot of folks walk right by it, don't even know it's there. We were out in D.C. Back in October, and we're standing there, and folks are just walking by.
We have this.
Yes,
country.
that's exactly it. That's exactly it. This memorial to these folks who pledged their lives, their fortune, and their sacred
Yes.
honor.
Yeah.
So that we could have what we have today. And
Wow.
just it's an amazing little memorial. It's just tucked away there
Yeah.
and right on the National Mall, and folks just walk right by it and don't even know it's there. But it's a fantastic little memorial honoring those folks and their devotion, their sacrifice for what we have today. So we have one there. Actually, the gentleman that we the signer that we highlight there is Dr. Benjamin Rush. And Dr. Benjamin Rush is a fascinating character and fascinating person in our history. John Adams said this, that there were three most influential folks, in his opinion, of the founding era. It was George Washington, it was Ben Franklin, which, everybody knows those two big names, right? But the third one that John Adams said this was Dr. Benjamin Rush.
Wow.
And a lot of folks don't
Don't
know
even know
about
who
him.
he is.
And it's interesting because, he's an interesting guy. He kind of was on a little bit of the outs with actually President Washington, and
Wow.
He wrote a letter. There's a lot of things for us to learn from this guy. That he wrote a letter that was disparaging of George Washington.
Wow.
And Washington kind of held it against him for quite some time. So maybe that's why
Maybe
we don't
that's why
know
he's
as much,
tucked away.
right? But be careful what you
Right.
be careful what you write out
Burning
there.
bridges, yeah.
But
Careful what you put on social
that's
media,
it. That's
kids.
exactly right. Right. But
Wow.
very interesting guy. We highlight him there. We've got the Washington Monument Tour. We talk about
Oh, that's cool.
Bulletproof George Washington, Jefferson. We talk about really going into David Barton's book, The Jefferson Lies. We kind of give you just a little sneak peek at what he has in that
that's
book,
neat.
and some interesting stuff there.
Is
And
that
then-
book still in print?
I believe
Yes,
so. Yeah,
We just got it from our local library.
absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent book. That one you probably want to even read ahead of time. And then our last major tour is the Lincoln Memorial.
Okay.
And that's a fascinating look at President Lincoln and all that he was going through.
And you can pay
Fascinating.
individual prices for each
Correct.
tour, or you can get all
Yeah.
of them for one
You get the Patriot
price.
Pack.
Yeah,
The Patriot
that's
Pack.
so neat.
You get them all, and with the Patriot Pack, you also get 3 additional locations. And
Oh,
so,
cool.
we've got George Mason. We do a little highlight at the World War II Memorial.
Ooh, is that a preview of what's
Ooh,
coming
it
next?
is. What? General Douglas MacArthur, fascinating character in history and a great man. We highlight him, and then there's also a third location there. But you got to get the app. You got to get the buy that
Got to
tour.
get the you got
That's
to
it.
download the app. Just download the app. It's free, so you're going to be
Yeah,
able to
see what
see
we got.
what it is, what they have to offer. This is now. I think some people listening might be like, so why do I think you're telling the truth about the lost history and other people aren't? Okay, Dave Barton, sure. I know Faith has shared with me this on multiple occasions about how Dave Barton shares that there is a year that you need to look in the back of all history books and find that year when you look in the back of the history books and see the books that they reference and that they quote and they do, and if it's not a certain year by that certain year, then they're just quoting another false narrative if it's from 30 years ago or 50 years ago. And that made my eyes just open up as a homeschool mom. When I'm like giving my kids certain books to read, or I'm using different history books to read, when I look back, that really helped, because Barton is all about the original documents. Is that
Yes.
correct?
They-
Can you
they've got
speak
a
into that?
Yeah, no, they've got a huge collection.
Yeah, they have, like,
I
the
think you said
largest-
120,000 documents that are of the founding era, like
And
originals,
the originals.
proclamations,
He
the
has
writings,
the
the letters.
largest original
Yeah.
document of the U.S. of all the
Privately owned.
privately owned.
Smithsonian
Right,
is
of
bigger
course.
than
Clearly,
him.
yeah.
Yes.
But it's interesting to know, though, because back in that time frame, I was mentioning Dr. Benjamin Rush.
Yes.
So in Adams and some of those guys, they would actually burn their letters many times because they did not want some of those things
To be they're
That's it.
geniuses.
So-
that makes sense.
So in some of that time frame, you think, well, 120,000, yeah, that is a lot.
Wow.
But especially when you think
They burnt
some
the
of the more
stuff,
controversial
yes.
letters or very personal letters,
right.
they didn't want those to be, taken out of context.
Right.
Which is, again, a
what
lot
has
of what has happened, right?
Yeah, like church and state.
That's it.
It's-
So you've
yes.
got to have the right contextual, understanding
Yes.
of what they were talking about, what was going on in that day, and not projecting it to, well, in our day, well, we think this, and this, because
Right.
culturally, this is not
Right.
okay today. Well,
That's
every
not what it's-
generation is going to
yes.
be judged, by by those that come behind us
Right.
of how we did things and how we handled
Mhm.
things and what we said and what we did. And and were the founders perfect? Absolutely not. We're all sinners. We're
Right.
all messed up. We're all
Right.
broken. But when you look at these individuals, and many of them had a relationship with Christ, and that might vary just a little bit, but they had a relationship with Him, and so they were trying to do what's right. They were trying to do what was best for the country. And so as you look at them through that lens, you've got to understand contextually what was going on in that time frame, what was
Okay.
acceptable, what was not acceptable.
Yeah.
And so we look at when you were going back to what's that time frame. The back of Jefferson, the Jefferson Lies by David Barton, he gives a very good breakdown of phases of time of when you can pretty much trust
Yeah.
what that author is saying,
Yeah.
and then what they're sourcing. Does their sourcing go back to more of that time frame,
Yeah.
the original documentation
Right.
from that time frame?
Yeah.
And that's what you really have to
I
dig into.
love that.
And so that's what we point back to.
Okay.
That's
So
what
we're
we
looking-
source.
Actually, from what I understand, that's about 1950s or so. There was progressive education started coming into our schools, and the whole
That's it.
brainwashing, this is the word I'm looking for,
Yeah.
of our culture started taking place at that time.
Sure. Yep.
Wow, this is so amazing. I think this is going to be such a help to the people in our country, the families who really want to know truth, the families who don't want to feel bad when they're going on vacation to teach
Yeah.
your kids about American heritage and just be able to enjoy what God has done in this country.
When you said feel bad, so we were out in DC just doing more research and planning, and we took our middle daughter, Stella, out there, and we went and visited the Thomas Jefferson Memorial. And normally when you go up there, it's like all exciting, and we're listening to our audio clips, adding things, taking things away. Well, when you go and visit it, if you haven't been there, it's this beautiful rotunda right on the water, and you've got cherry blossom trees everywhere. So it's absolutely gorgeous. You go up these steps, and in the middle of the rotunda, these huge pillars, you see prayers that he said, amazing verses that he quoted, and then there's this huge statue of him in the center. Well, we're there with our little 8-year-old, and she has to go potty. So there's a bathroom down there. So the bottom floor, you can go down or take an elevator down underneath the Jefferson Memorial. And they used to have his life and legacy and kind of a little museum down there. Well, that was all boarded up, and they had all their bathrooms, and all their bathrooms, a new thing that they added, were all gender neutral, so that was interesting. And then the other thing that they had was their gift shop was real, real tiny, but the entire exhibit was turned into why democracy, that keyword right there, democracy, is a good thing, and why practicing democracy is a good thing. And they went through and they showcase pictures of Thomas Jefferson's statues all across the United States that have been smashed, that have been tagged, that have
Wow.
had paint thrown all over them.
Like highlighting it.
And they
like
are
it's a
saying
good thing.
why we celebrate democracy.
Oh my
And they're putting a whole brand new
goodness.
exhibit there. It says coming in 2025. So they're
Oh
gearing up
my
for the
word.
250th anniversary of our nation. And they're gearing
To
up
tell you how
how
bad, your
bad Thomas
nation is.
Jefferson is. They're doing the same thing
Wow.
with the Lincoln Memorial. There's a lot that's coming in the works because they're going to have huge crowds of people, which we encourage you, go see it, but also have true facts to share with
Have
the
the right
people.
history. Yeah.
Wow.
Have the right history, and and prepare yourself.
Right.
Before you get there. Do some and what our whole point is. Do your research.
Yeah.
We're gonna tell you where we got our information from. It is sourced, and that'll link back to our website where we're gonna
Yeah.
kind of link those different books,
Right.
additional resources.
Right.
Our whole point is we want people to engage with history.
Yeah.
Right. We want it to be an enjoyable and interesting experience for them to learn. Right.
Yeah.
Learn the truth of history. Get lost in it. That's how
Right.
that's our
Yeah.
whole tagline
That's
there.
awesome.
But we want to tell the stories of American heroes.
wow.
And America is not perfect, but we've got a lot to be thankful for. We've got some people that really sacrificed everything for us.
Yes.
And their story needs to be told, and it should never be lost.
That is awesome.
Love the whole concept. Love the fact that we are working through this to communicate to people the truth about their country. I get so tired of hearing all the negatives, and there are negatives. Again, like you said, I love the fact that you pointed this out. The Bible says we are all sinners. There is not a perfect person on the planet. And if we are not going to, and maybe we shouldn't honor sinners, but if we're not going to honor sinners, then we'll never honor anybody. If we're not going to respect the heritage of imperfect people, then we're never going to respect anybody because we're all flawed. And that doesn't keep us, however, from trying to do the very best we can as individuals within the culture that we find ourselves. And our founding fathers founded themselves in a certain culture and said, wait a minute, a lot of this is wrong. We need to correct it. Well, they didn't correct it perfectly, but they gave us a system whereby we can continually and progressively, unlike any other nation, we can eliminate the problems that are in our culture, and we've done that over the last 250 years.
This has been wonderful, John. Thank you. Now, again, those of you who are listening right now, if we didn't do it already, grab your phone right now, go to your app store, download Lost History Tours. Download it, look through it. Even, maybe you're not in there. Maybe you can be like, maybe you're not in D.C. Go ahead, purchase one, listen to it. It's actually, I was here listening to it.
Well, actually,
you have to be there.
You got to be there.
You got to be
there.
DC.
I know.
It's
you got a sneak peek.
So you got the sneak peek, Charity.
It is so enjoyable.
There is a sample
Listen,
available
oh, yes.
on our website.
There's a sample available.
Oh, there you go.
To kind of give you an idea.
Go to the website, which is losthistorytours.com.
www.losthistorytours.com.
Yes, that's it.
So go to that. Listen to the preview. It's beautiful. It gets you ready and excited to go there and be like, oh, tour me around. Tell me the true history of our country.
And please take this and share this. We don't say this every time on every podcast, but we would really love you to share this with everyone that you know, because this really needs to get out, that our freedoms are so, so important. God's given us, in my personal opinion, God has given us a reprieve. Our nation was going to the dogs. And the fact of the matter is, through the prayer of God's people, through the mercy and grace of God, God allowed us to have another imperfect president, but one who believes in freedom, one who believes in our republic, one who believes in the rule of law, one who believes so much of what we believe. And so we have this reprieve, we have this freedom that's been given to us. Let's do everything we can while we still have it to promote the truth. And the truth is that America was founded on godly principles, biblical principles, by imperfect men who are trying to do what is right. And I'm so thankful to be an American. Thank you for what you're doing.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. This is Teis Talks.
And it's more than a conversation.